Hi, welcome back. Or if you're new here, nice to meet you. My name is Elle. I teach yoga, and today we're going to be talking about headstand or Shursasana A. So before we jump into it, please make sure that you are all warmed up. So if you're not, pause the video, take 10-15 minutes to get your body moving, get that blood flowing so that you're ready to get upside down. So yeah, when you're ready, let's get started into a kneeling position. Before we're going to be getting actually upside down, I'd first like to talk a little bit about the position of the head and the weight division. So please remember that when you're upside down, to put most of the weight on your arms. So it's going to be about a 70-30% kind of thing. So 70% on the arms and 30% on the head. Our neck is not made to carry our full body weight, and it definitely should not be doing that. So yeah, 70-30%. And then the point of the head that we are going to be putting on the floor is going to be the flat part of the top of your head. So it's not going to be the hairline that will also be quite challenging for your neck, and it's not going to be the crown that might also not be as stable. So an easy way to find this flat kind of point on our heads is to take the base of the palm of our hands and place that in between our eyebrows. Then wrap your hand around your head and dig your middle finger kind of into the skin. This will not feel that pleasant, but kind of dig it a little bit more so that when you remove your hand, you can still kind of feel that dot. And then once we get there, you'll know exactly which point to put down because you can still feel it. Another way that I know sometimes people find this spot with is to put your thumbs on your ears and then let your pointing finger find the center of your head. For me, it kind of finds the same spot. And then you can also dig your nails in if you like, or just press a little bit, or just remember the place. So yeah, once you've done this, let's get started by measuring our elbows. So we're going to be placing our elbows on the floor with this length in between. So we're grabbing right above the elbows with our opposite hands. So the reason that we do this and that we measure it in this sense is because when we do it like this, our elbow is going to be directly underneath our shoulder, and we're going to be creating a straight and solid wall because our arms are going to be kind of functioning as the walls of our headstand. And this way they are going to be straight, they're going to be strong. We do not want wonky walls in our houses, and we do not want wonky walls in our headstands. So when you have measured yourself, and place your elbows on the floor. From here, we're going to release the hands and interlace our fingers. Now, as we do this, make sure that your elbows stay in the same place. You're going to interlace your fingers into a cup, and I like to have my pinky fingers kind of on the inside and outside so that there is not one who is underneath and getting crushed, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of going to be like this, and you can see that the pinky fingers are in a no crushing zone. So from there, you're going to place that point of your head that we just measured on the floor. Make sure that the head is on the floor and only the back of the head is kind of leaning against the back of our hands. So our hands can help us balance. But what I sometimes see is people putting their heads on their hands. As in the head will be balancing on the hands, and that's going to make you very unstable once we actually go upside down. So make sure the top of the head is on the floor, the back of the head is leaning against the hands. Now tuck your toes if you hadn't already. Start pressing up and away through your shoulders and your elbows. So elbows press into the floor, and from there you're going to rise your knees up. So now we're kind of in a dolphin position, and we're going to be walking our feet up to our face. Find a fixed point to look at, so something that doesn't move to put your vision on. And from here, we're going to walk our hips over our shoulders as much as we can. Once you cannot go any further, make sure that you're still really pressing up and out of those elbows, pressing your shoulders away from your ears. Move one knee to chest. So really squeeze heel to bum, knee to nip. Press off of those toes that are still on the floor. Find the weight shift. And then, whoop, The other knee comes to your chest. Then we're gonna find our balance here, and only once you feel you're stable, you're gonna start rise your feet up to the sky. Make sure you keep pressing up and away, shoulders away from the ears, elbows into the floor. Keep breathing. You're gonna stay here for as long as comfortable. And then to come down, you're only gonna bring one leg. And then the other. The reason I like to bring only one leg down at first is because when you bring both legs down at the same time, you have a lot of weight to counter. And if we're first learning headstand, if you bring both legs down, you have suddenly all of that weight shifts you this way, and you will come down a lot harder, rather than when you have just one leg and then that other leg is still up there to kind of counter that weight and get you down more gently. Now, if you do fall this way, you're going to land on your feet, so it doesn't really matter. It's not really going to hurt you. It's just more pleasant. So those are the basics for getting into headstands. Now, to troubleshoot just a few things, something that I want to mention. The first thing I already mentioned quite briefly before is that when we place our elbows down, and we put our heads and then we start to walk the feet, something that I notice very often is that those elbows really start to slide. So really make sure that your mat is grippy, that you're not slipping and sliding. And I know that it feels safer for a lot of people to keep the elbows wider because it makes you feel like you have more space. But actually, you're turning this sturdy triangle into a flimsy wall. You see, so this is way more likely to fall over if you push something so straight than something like this. This is gonna prevail. So please make sure no slippy slidey elbows. And then another thing that I see people do is they're super eager to get into it, which is great, and therefore they jump. And the first thing that I would like to mention about jumping is yes, it might make it seem easier that way to get your pelvis above your shoulders, especially if you have shorter hamstrings. Then just walking up there might seem almost impossible. You might feel like you have to jump, but you don't have to, and I'm going to show you an alternative in a little bit. But first, I want to show you where jumping also might get you. A lot of the times, jumping looks like this, and that doesn't really get you far. But if you're really enthusiastic, then jumping can also look like this. And if you're not very confident in your back bends, then this is not something where you want to go. It's also, well, generally, if you're learning headstands, that's not a place where we're necessarily aiming for. And also, it might not feel too great on your spine to get into that deep of a back bend all of a sudden, to falling it with a So please try not to jump. I know it's exciting, I know it's tempting, but please try no jumping. Then, of course, you can also think, but I won't flip over if I use a wall. I would also advise against the wall. I'm sorry. The reason for it is because the wall often makes us feel more safe, but actually if we do fall against a wall, we can stub our toe against the wall, break it, bruise it, or hurt our ankles as well. And usually if you fall in an open space like this, if you have it available to you, I would recommend using it, because when you do fall in a space like this, the body knows how to catch itself on a floor. Whereas in an object that is not a floor, you can hurt yourself. I will give one thing to the wall though, and that is that it mentally usually makes us feel a little bit safer. So if you really, really, really feel unsafe in this open space and you feel like you need a wall to get through that mental barrier, then okay, use it, just be careful. Because, you know, most of this stuff, most people that I encounter in class are physically perfectly capable of doing a headstand. And I think for me, when I was first learning, I was similar when it comes to this. Physically, I knew I had the strength, I knew I had the flexibility. but I just couldn't do it because it was very mental, and I needed to get over that mental fear of falling, get over that belief of, that's hard and I can't do it. And sometimes we need a little push to realize, wait, actually, I can do this thing, I can do hard things, and it's not that dangerous. I am safe, and therefore you try it maybe a couple of times with a wall and then try to move away from it. So if you need the wall to get you over that mental fear, or over that mental barrier, then okay, go ahead. I will close my eyes. But if it's not that mental fear, and if you just simply have short hamstrings, for example, and you feel like, but actually I cannot get my hips here without jumping. So how do I get into a headstand if I'm not allowed to jump? For that, I would recommend stacking some yoga blocks and putting your feet on that. It's gonna lengthen out your legs and give you a little bit more straight space. I'm gonna do it with this because it's what I have accessible to me. Make sure that you place it just below your knees. Then turn your hands around. So knees go wide. And then I do the same as the things that we did before. So you measure the elbows, you interlace the finger, place the designated spot on your head. You're gonna rise your knees up from the floor and then place your hands or your legs on so if they're yoga blocks, you're gonna put your feet immediately. If they're a chair, you might do the lower legs first and then the feet. You're gonna walk your feet to the edge. Make sure your hips are over your elbows, then one knee to chest, and then the other. And from here again, we can rise up the feet. The only thing that is more tricky with this one is coming down because of course there's an object in your way. I would recommend, if you notice you're still falling, just think of spreading the legs and going like that. Or if you can, go down with control, lower one foot and then the other. But when we're first learning getting up, we also have to learn getting out. And the first tries of getting out of headstand might not be that graceful. They might be kind of more of a falling situation, but falling backwards is usually going to be, or is it backwards, falling with your feet back on the ground, is going to be fine. So yeah, just think, spread the legs and then come down. So those were my tips on headstand, or actually I have one more, which is not necessarily solely for headstand. I do this every single time I learn a new posture that is challenging for me, and that is to film yourself, because one, it is very fun to track your progress, to see in 2 months time or even 2 years time where you are compared to where you started. But it also really helps you with seeing where your body is in space, especially with inversions. When you turn yourself upside down, usually our sense of where things are in space, or of where our legs are, for example, is gonna be kind of thrown off. So let's say I am just learning headstand and I don't know why I can't find that balance without the jump. And I think my hips are over my shoulders, because this happens. And I do one knee to chest, I do the other, but I can't find the weight shift and I don't know why. And I'm practicing from home. And then I film myself and I actually see, oh, wait, I need to take a few steps more and whoop, and I can do it. So yeah, filming is a super useful tool. I absolutely love doing it, even though that might sound a little weird. It's helped me tremendously in multiple poses and multiple asanas. And yeah, hopefully it will help you too. So I hope this was all useful. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got a little bit more confident into trying your headstand. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.